trying something new this time around because I think restricting myself to movie reviews would be actually kind of like limiting myself and limiting any sort of potential one might have of this channel, because you can't expect movie reviews to come out of this channel all the time. At least I don't want it to. The problem is YouTube algorithm might not support that, but if if one looks at my channel, I don't think I'm going through the YouTube algorithm route anyway. Anyhow, I think one of my most uh, exciting new forms of media consumption, the one I usually am the most excited about in forms of media consumption other than comic books, is other than movies, are comic books. And it's not that I haven't read the comic books before that I'm going to talk about now. It's just that because now I have the money to spare, and now I have a quote unquote job to actually give me the money to spare, I want to fulfill some of my, uh, bits and bobs from my own forms of hobbies. I want to collect books, I want to collect comic books and all that stuff. So, for that end, I decided to read two of the best Batman comics or Batman graphic novels that have come out within the last 20 years. I decided to reread them. Keep in mind that I have read them a long time back. One is Batman the Long Halloween. I don't know if you guys can see it. Batman the Long Halloween and Batman Dark Victory. Both these comics are written by Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. Now, if you think about the size of these two comic books, I should also like to clarify. This is from the DC Compact Comics edition, where DC Comics have finally cracked the code, and I think they cracked the code 10 years too late that you should target the manga audience or you should target the book audience. So they are going to structure their most favorite graphic novels in the form of smaller books that can go easily inside bookshelves. It's a good endeavor. I think the page quality deserves a bit more work. Compared to that, this is the traditional paperback format, and genuinely speaking, this is still the best. This is still the best edition of these books. Again, if these guys manage to get their compact editions, at least in terms of page quality, right, the compact editions are going to fly off the shelves. The question, why am I talking about Long Halloween and Dark Victory? Primarily because every other person in this entire planet who has seen a Batman movie knows about the Long Halloween and Dark Victory, because the Dark Knight, the Batman, and the Penguin all take heavy inspiration from the Long Halloween and from Dark Victory. It's interesting also that Long Halloween and Dark Victory also take inspiration from two or three of the greatest mobster movies ever made. One might call they almost parody The Godfather to an umpteenth degree. But what really works in both Long Halloween and Dark Victory is the fact that at the end of the day, it is both these stories are ultimately mystery stories. Both these stories are film noir tales talking about investigators, cops, gangsters. But here the gangsters, who are essentially Batman's rogues galleries, slowly and steadily become the freaks. They slowly and steadily evolve into the freaks. And the basic story of Long Halloween, for anybody who is unaware, is about a serial killer known as the Holiday Killer, who starts killing off gangsters belonging to the Falcone family one by one during each and every holiday throughout the year. That starts off with the Long Halloween. Dark Victory is what happens after Long Halloween, after the consequence of Long Halloween. Mild spoiler, because, and I don't think it could be called a spoiler because the movies also effectively adapt that section too, is that the Long Halloween also leads to an origin story of one of Batman's most famous rogues, Two-Face, or Harvey Dent. You know the origin story of Two-Face to a certain degree. Harvey Dent, a very aggressive defense lawyer and Bruce Wayne's friend. He's not Bruce Wayne's friend in these comics, by the way. But Bruce Wayne's friend is exactly, while trying a gangster in this story, to Salvatore Maroni, he's thrown acid by Maroni into to his face, and half of his face burns off. It also leads to a mental dissociation within him. He was already a troubled person, but we soon come to realize that his troubles explicitly literalize. And Dark Victory becomes essentially the sequel to Long Halloween, where Two-Face becomes the gangster now, and a serial killer known as the Hangman begins hunting down the cops. I'm going to say something very controversial in this statement, that while I absolutely love Long Halloween, I believe Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale, I believe the partnership of Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale is impeccable. I think I love Dark Victory a tad bit more than Long Halloween. I love Dark Victory a tad bit more because Dark Victory essentially makes and executes the promise of Long Halloween far better. If the promise of Long Halloween was essentially a noir gangster mystery drama which also explores the underbelly of Gotham and the soul and the rot at the soul of Gotham as well as Batman, I I think that exploration is done far better in Dark Victory, because one of the key tenets of Dark Victory is always that both Batman, Commissioner Jim Gordon, and Harvey Dent slash Two Face are all alone, and how they are dealing with that loneliness as the city around them falls apart. It's an extraordinary work, especially if you consider like how Dark Victory integrates both the supervillain antics of the tale as well as a murder mystery so seamlessly, and essentially brings forth a total gang war. Again, the Long Halloween, due to its narrow-mindedness and due to its tunnel vision of going through the extremely convoluted plot, it doesn't explore all every other periphery, which Dark Victory actually does. Dark Victory, Dark Victory becomes a story about family, about the disintegration of family from birth and the creation of found family, because it also doubles as an origin story for Batman's sidekick, Robin. Again, multiple sort of subplots and tones it is juggling, but it does very well. My preference in this is that I think both Long Halloween and Dark Victory should be read as one singular piece. Of course, there is another book which follows Catwoman's journey. And if people are wondering what is Catwoman's journey in this entire story, if you guys have seen the Batman, you already know what is Catwoman's relationship with Carmine Falcone. If you haven't, firstly, why don't you? Why don't you please see the Batman? And second, please read Catwoman when in Rome. I remember reading it. It was not as good as both Long Halloween and Dark Witchy, but it is good enough. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not actively praise the late great Tim Sale's art, because it has such a like classicism, that angular face, and there are so many close-ups of faces. It reminds you of watching a 70s gangster movie, and I think that was the intention anyway. The entire comic book strip, this entire two graphic novel run, was essentially Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale's love letter to the gangster movies and to the noir movies. And both Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, while adapting Long Halloween and Dark Witchy, because that's what they did, their entire intention was also to make a crime drama in the vein of Long Halloween and Dark Witchy, where the groundedness completely overwhelmed the kookiness of the Batman Rogues Gallery, and it worked really well in The Dark Knight. I also loved how The Dark Knight actually subverted some of Long Halloween's tropes, and not just subvert. I mean, it took key elements of Long Halloween and just shifted their positions, like the fact that the acid attack on Harvey Dent was just teased as a sort of misdirection, when in reality, how Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face in The Dark Knight is much more violent. So again, very interesting, and I genuinely would like to address that if people who have not read graphic novels are wondering where should we start, or where should we start with the graphic novels of DC Comics or Marvel Comics. Firstly, I had done my comics podcast with the film students or Shorno Jyoti's YouTube channel. I would urge you guys to look into that podcast feed, and I would urge you guys to listen to us recommend. And also, if you guys like these sort of videos where I talk about comic books and why these comic books are good, and if you would like me to talk more about comic books as well as normal books, because that's what I'm doing, that's what I'm reading, and my intention is to read more now. So if you guys would like me to talk about it, do drop recommendations, do tell me, and do support in this endeavor. I know I haven't been giving regular videos. This is my intention. I want to give more regular videos, but also I do not want to be constricted within a box. I think this is a good step in moving forward in that direction of being unrestricted by a box. And for that endeavor, I need you guys to actually, do the needful. Please like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. But more importantly, do give me ideas. Do provide engagement. That really helps. Thank you so much, and please read comics and books. Utterly essential at this point. In an era where anti-intellectualism is becoming the norm, reading books and comic books, reading itself as a form of an exercise is becoming essential. Intellectualism is not inherently a bad thing. It's the weaponizing of intellectualism into showing something as an armor or showing something as a form of pretension. That's bad. Intellectualism is not bad. That's all. Thank you so much.